organization stemmed from really the corruption that was going on, not with just the college, but also because of the College Republican National Committee, the CRNC. That was a 52-state federation that included Puerto Rico and Washington, D.C. And they were the establishment control of the college youth organizations in the state and in the country for many years. They were founded originally in 1892. But unfortunately, what we saw within the last couple of years was an establishment anti-Trump stance from this organization. Specifically at ASU, we saw a lot of interns and people who worked directly with John McCain and Jeff Flake, who were influencing the club in ways that was not productive to the America First agenda. During the elections, they often would bring in sororities and fraternities to rig the elections in favor of their hand-appointed candidates, and they would never come back to a meeting. And so we tried working within the bylaws to fix this problem. We tried working with a faculty advisor, and we weren't getting anywhere. So that's when the founders of the organization came together and said, let's start a new org. We're going to call it College Republicans United. We're going to bring in all sorts of speakers. Speakers from the libertarian section, from the establishment section, from the America First section, and we're going to have an uncomfortable conversation with all these people because we should be talking about the issues and we should be having debates. This is what college was supposed to be about. But unfortunately, almost immediately, we were attacked as anti-Semitic, racist, misogynistic, all the buzzwords you've heard before. And we had Chandler Thornton, who was the CRNC chairman, writing articles disparaging Trump as late as 2017, 2018. So, you know, unfortunately, in 2021, the CRNC manipulated its elections for the national organization, and it started a process of all the states falling apart and disassociating from the organization. Our club, which only started at ASU, which had originally no intention of bringing in other chapters, started communicating with other groups, and we found that our problems at ASU was happening across Arizona, happening across DC, happening across the country. So we started talking to 30 other chapters, and we put up a joint resolution calling on President Trump to end H-1B visas in the LPT program. And our letter garnered national attention. It was posted on Breitbart, and other collective efforts with 40 other chapters, which eventually rolled into the College Republican Patriot Coalition. And these were just like-minded people. We had no structure. It was a hodgepodge of a coalition of chapters. And we were approached by Iowa State University, who had just been kicked out of their state federation. And they were also the ones who hosted Nick Fuentes as well. There's a little side story on that. But they were being dischartered and attacked by the state party. And they knew our history, and they said, why don't we form a closer coalition together? And that's what became Republicans United. So we have one chapter, we're talking to others. Soon after, we had California, we had U of A, we had another Iowa chapter. Now we have Texas, and we have Louisiana and Ohio joining on board with us. So there was a huge market of disenfranchised Republican voters, of youth, and this is what the party needs, supposedly. So we had our first national convention in Las Vegas, Nevada. We got the attention of Lega Giovanni, which is the ruling coalition party in Italy, as well as the national rally in France. This recognition was not due because of our wealthy donors or influential family members, or that we had some sort of political connection through the pipeline to them. But really, these Europeans, they have this attitude of they're not going to be able to save Western civilization on their own. They look to America, and they look to the United States to get our act together and push our values to the rest of the Western world. And they're not seeing that from the Republican Party. They're not seeing that really from an entity. They look at our organization, as small as it may be, and they said, this is what needs to be replicated across the country. If we can get CRU, College Republicans United, to be more of the forefront party, there's some hope for the West. And so they gave special recognition to Sheriff Joe Arpaio. They gave recognition to our organization, and they're supporters of ours. But you know, like any other group, we're not immune to recurring issues that's seen within the Republican Party. And in my opinion, we really have three fundamental issues with Republicans. So there's a lot of individuals who are seeking personal fame and fortune. There are those who are driven by financial gain, and there are those Then there's another section who are really hungry for power, and then they compromise their values to seek power. As you know, we had the counties from Pima, Yavapai, and Maricopa who were supposed to be here, and they backed out because of one speaker. And they sacrificed the opportunity to talk to all of you, and maybe don't agree with the speaker, but they had an opportunity to get you all involved with the county parties. I've personally been to a lot of county meetings, and state party meetings, where you see the log cabin Republicans there. I didn't freak out and say, I'm not going to go because you have degenerates in the room. But you know, they have the idea of the big tent party appealing to the center, but if you're a hard right-winger, you're a constitutionalist, you're a sovereign citizen, or you're a libertarian, or something that doesn't really mesh with the Republican establishment, they have no problem writing you off. So we have a problem within the party. So today, you're going to hear from not only just the chapter leaders, but you're going to hear from John Fillmore. He is a former state representative in this state. He has issues with the Republican Party. He's going to go into that. So we have a lot to talk about today. So first, I want to bring up Chris Campbell. He is the founder of the Institute for Western Thought, and he helped get this ball rolling with this event. Chris, could you come up?
Please turn me up. We are founders with the Institute for Western Thought. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here. The Institute for Western Thought is an organization that believes strongly that Western civilization is the greatest civilization that has ever been on the face of the earth. Inspired by our faith, we are people who, we're builders, we're creators, we are rememberers, we're record keepers. I was watching the other day on the internet, there was a video of this Asian gentleman, I can't remember his name, but he was talking about all of the attacks on the British Museum of Natural History. And because of course the joke with the British Museum of Natural History is never ask them where they got all of their artifacts. Because the joke is that they go around the world, the British Empire went around the world and pilfered and stole stuff and brought it back to London to their museum and cloistered it away there, rather than leaving it with the people who, could arguably rightfully belong to them. But to his point, he says, I'm really glad, he says, now I'm an American citizen, but I used to belong to whatever country, wherever he was born in, I can't remember. And he says, I'm really glad that they came to my country and they did that, because everyone is arguing about all of these historical artifacts and these ancient cultures and ancient civilizations that the British plundered and pilfered and took back to their museum. But the only reason that they even know that those organizations and those civilizations existed was because the British did that. In every other country where they didn't do it, what do? You see the next civilization come in and destroy it. You see the next group come in and destroy it. And he says, so you might be a little unhappy that the British did that, but the only reason we're complaining about them doing that is because they did it. We wouldn't even know about these cultures. We wouldn't know this rich history from around the world. And it reminds me of one of the lines in Indiana Jones. He's always running around yelling at people, that belongs in a museum. That's not something that should be sold off into the black market. That's not something that should be destroyed. You look at what's going on around the world and what's really been happening for the last several decades. Beautiful 100-foot-tall statues in Afghanistan made out of granite. Now they're not to my gods. I'm a Christian, but they're still beautiful and wonderful dedications of faith. And then you have people dynamiting them, blowing them into dust. They're not even taking pictures of them first because they don't care. Because that's not who they are. That's not what they do. It's like so many other civilizations. But we preserve things. We build things. And this is one of the reasons why I believe that we are the greatest civilization that's ever existed. Now, I want to tell you a story. Hopefully, I'll be brief with it because I think it's important, and I'm not trying to bore you with history. It's the story of a man named Matthias de Souza. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. He was born in the 1600s, the early 1600s, and he was a slave. And he, through his ingenuity, intellect, and wit, was able to convince the Catholic Church to buy him as an indentured servant. Because the Catholic Church did not believe in slavery. They outlawed slavery. Even though slavery existed many other places around the world, the Catholic Church wouldn't do it. And so he said, here's my opportunity. If I can get them to buy me, I have a path forward. I won't die a slave. I have the ability to work off and buy my freedom, which is what he did. And he came with the Catholic Church to the colony of Maryland. And after buying his freedom, worked hard in the community and became the first black elected representative for the state or for the colonial legislature of Maryland. Now, again, I'm not trying to bore you with ancient history or annoying things or make everyone fall asleep. I'm telling you this for an important reason. Because there are a lot of organizations that don't believe that America is the greatest country in the world. They don't believe that the Western civilization is the greatest civilization in the world. And they're trying to rewrite the narrative about American determinism and about how the real American dream is that you can be born here or you can move here from somewhere else in any condition. And if you're smart and you keep your eye open for opportunities and you don't let yourself be controlled by fear, you can rise and elevate to any level that you want. You can rise to elected office if that's what's important to you. You can earn money in business if that's what's important to you. You have the opportunity to do things that may not exist elsewhere. And they want to rewrite that. And one of these organizations is the 1619 Project. So I bring up Matthias from 1641 because the 1619 Project says that the United States of America was built on slavery. It was built on racism. It was built on hatred. And it all began in 1619, whenever the first slave ships that came here from, there were Portuguese ships, came here and sold the first slaves. And so they believe that that is the true foundation of America. And I say that's not true. Because just a few years later, in 1641, a man was able to earn his freedom and be elected to office. That doesn't sound like a group of racists who hate people and just want to subjugate everybody and keep everybody down. It sounds like people who believe that if you work hard, you keep your eyes open, you look for opportunities, and you seize those opportunities when they're made available to you, you can rise to any office and in any position that you feel is important. So like I said, the Institute, we're dedicated to Western civilization and promoting it and reminding everyone why it is so great and why it is so important, because we are attacked constantly. This country, our civilization, our beliefs, our religious values are attacked constantly. And I'm not going to go gently into that good night. And I hope that you won't either. And so we are proud to work, even though we are a 501c3 and not-for-profit, we are proud to work with organizations of whatever political party who believe the same as we do. And we see College Republicans United as an organization that shares the same values that we share. And so in those areas, we are proud to support them, we are proud to help them, we are proud to stand for free speech. And even if you don't like what a speaker says, we have to have the freedom to say it, because we don't need free speech for things that we like or agree with. We need free speech for the things that we don't like, we don't agree with. And it's just one step from silencing those who we disagree with to being the ones who are silenced ourselves. All right. My name is Christopher Campbell, and I am the chairman of the Institute for Western Thought. Thank you very much for being here. And now I would like to introduce our very next speaker. Our next speaker is familiar to many of you as our former state representative for Legislative District 1 here in Yavapai County, David Stringer. Mr. Stringer was first elected to the Arizona legislature in 2016, and he was reelected in 2018 as the second highest vote getter in the state that year for any elected office in the legislature. Now, as many of you know, Mr. Stringer was unable to finish his second term for reasons which he's planning on addressing in his remarks this afternoon. Mr. Stringer is a local attorney, still an active attorney here in Arizona. He's an attorney here in Prescott, and he's the owner and publisher of Prescott E-News, one of the sponsors of this event. And we thank him for his generosity and for his courage in standing with us and not being cowed like so many others into running and hiding. As to the negative coverage of the event in the mainstream media, well, we would like to thank Mr. Stringer and Prescott E-News for boldly standing with us and standing up against this.
Yeah.
As an elected official, Mr. Stringer's politics were decisively conservative with top ratings from most conservative groups such as the Free Enterprise Club, Americans for Prosperity, the Center for Arizona Policy, and the Arizona Republican Assembly. Mr. Stringer remains active in Republican politics as an elected precinct committeeman and state committeeman for Legislative District 1 here in Yavapai County. And please welcome me in joining him. And welcome him.